All right. Hello and welcome. My name is Sarah Stans. I am the Community Resilience Director here at Park County Environmental Council. Today, we're hosting a community conversation aimed to provide the information you need for an upcoming ballot initiative regarding the Wellness Center and Recreation Center. PCC is your local community conservation group with the support of 350 contributing members and over 4,000 local supporters. We work with people in our community to find common values and work towards safeguarding the land, water, wildlife, and communities in Park County. Park County does have a very long tradition of human habitation and is the traditional homelands of many Indigenous people, including the Cheyenne, the Blackfeet, Sioux, Absaloga, and many other Indigenous nations who live here now and are deeply connected to this land and whose ancestors cared for and stewarded this place. We are committed to finding ways to working together and to honor this legacy for future generations. So today, this platform is for dialogue, shared knowledge, and consistent information. Thank you for submitting all your wonderful questions to help shape this conversation today, and thank you for being here. As community members, we know it's our responsibility to weigh in and shape how projects and policies are made and really support those that are in the trenches making these hard decisions. So regarding the Wellness Center, voters will decide whether to establish a special district to help fund the new facility operations and maintenance. Ballots are being mailed out February 28th, that's next week, and they are due on Election Day, March 19th. You can register to vote until March 18th, the day before, and you will need to request a ballot if you own taxable property in the city but live outside the city. We have a couple resources to request a ballot, and with Park County election information, we'll share those in an email following this, along with the recording and other contact information. So you can also request and fill out a ballot in person on Election Day at the Park County Clerk and Recorder's Office at the courthouse and City and County Complex Building, same thing, on East Calendar Street. And all of our conversations are recorded. You can find them at our website or YouTube channel. And then we did a preliminary wellness center conversation where we spoke about the location, and you can find other project considerations there. So aside from answering your questions, we are really encouraging you today to participate in the vote. Ultimately, this increases participation in decisions that really impact all of us. And in general, we know that this is everyone's community, and the more voices and the more we show up, the better our leaders can shape the outcomes we all want. I must say a couple things about that. We are not taking a position on the Wellness Center. We are not telling you which way to vote. We are not paid or compensated by the Bannock Group for Ranges or any of the funders of the center to host these discussions. And our ask and call to action is for you to take this info back to your friends, family, and neighbors. Keep digging into the information, reaching out to folks who know the facts, and register to vote, get your ballots, and be sure to return them. Get your neighbors to do the same. In terms of resilience, to me, the work is really important because it continues to challenge us to center vulnerable populations. This is the young, the old, disabled, as well as the wild critters, many who do not have a voice or ability to participate in conversations like these and who cannot vote. So resilience means many things to many different people. And when you registered, we asked you if you thought the proposed wellness center could potentially strengthen community resilience. And this is what you said. That 70% of people, and that was 67, voted yes, and 29, nearly 30% said no or were unsure. And one of the goals today is that we just hope you'll be provided with more information and certainty on what this means to you. So let's get into the questions. To ensure we have the best information available to us and we hear from some new perspectives, we've invited and they have graciously accepted city resident Laurie Bishop, who holds several occupations and can speak to and connect some dots on community resilience. Caroline Rehder, a health professional, 4Rangers board member, who's also passionate about raising our community's overall well-being, and Grant Gager, city manager, to answer questions about tax, budget, operations, HR, brownfields, etc. And our representatives today were all sent your submitted questions. We are super honored to have them in the room with us and providing us this opportunity. Just a note that we're not filtering questions and responses. There may be some questions that may go unanswered, so please be patient as we are trying to facilitate as many answers as possible. However, to ensure your questions are answered, we'll provide some contact information following the event as well as the recording. And if there are people and resources that we're unaware of, please be sure to send them to myself and someone at PCEC. And with that, Laurie Bishop, I would like to invite you to come off mute and talk to us a little bit about the project.
Great, thanks. Well, thank you for including me. I really appreciate that. And thank you. It's fun to see a bunch of familiar faces and names, and then a bunch of people I don't know. So I'll give you a little quick context on me and sort of the background that I'm bringing to the conversation that we're going to have today and the project itself. And just so you're clear, I am showing up as an individual. We're going to talk about the work that I get to do in this community, but I am not showing up. I'm off the clock right now. So I'm really here as an individual, but the work that I get to do really informs some of my perspective. And I've lived in Livingston since 1996. My gateway into Livingston, my husband and I owned a downtown bike shop that closed many, many years ago. And Dale Sexton took over much of that work and has done a great job with it. And but I have a long history of working in youth development in this community, and then also have the honor of getting to serve Livingston in the legislature, and I've been in that position since 2017. So I bring a kind of broad background to that. And the work that I get to do today is I work with LiveWell 49, which is a community coalition of organizations and people focused on health and well-being across the county. So when we talk to some of the mental health issues, that's information and perspective and data that I'm pretty steeped in on a daily basis. I wanted to just sort of talk a little bit about, I think you'll hear from multiple people today about the history of this, but certainly since I have lived in Livingston, this has been a conversation. And I recalled that in 2004, which was 20 years ago, I was on the elected commission to study our form of government. And I remember at that time, there was an active effort to try to get a facility similar to this built. And I remember having conversations around what do we need to make that happen? And one of the things that was told to me very specifically was, we're going to need a way to be able to help fund that on an ongoing basis. We're going to need a special district. And so that brings us right to the conversation we are today. Just making sure people know, not only is this conversation rooted in a long history of people wanting to do this, and this very effort has been going on for many years, but also the idea that we would need to really have a special district to make this work is something that has been understood for a long time as well. So I just wanted to place that history there. And then to be able to just pivot to say that in the work that I'm doing today, part of the work that LiveWell 49 does is we really look a lot at the data in our community and are trying to understand the community needs. So I don't think I'm sharing anything new when I say that we have multiple indicators and if you've been looking at the data, they have been there for a long time, that shows that our community has some unusual struggles, even in our state, with issues of mental health, behavioral health, well-being. And that manifests itself in lots of ways. And I first learned that when I was working with youth, but I will say that what I know about today is that we have an aging population in our community. And the data that we're looking at is showing that that population is really struggling as well. So I want you to be thinking about the needs of our entire community. I just ran into this meeting coming from meeting with my own aging parents and their physician and talking through issues. And I know that issues of being able to help them find activities that can keep them active and keep them connected to community are things that that they're actively struggling with, and that I see certainly in the data is they're not alone in that. So I see the benefit of this facility. Not only do I look at it through the lens of somebody who's raised 3 kids here and knows what it's like to try to keep toddlers active in the middle of winter and see what those needs are, but also I look at my aging parents who could really use a facility where an indoor walking track that's available all throughout the day would be a huge benefit. And I see that our overall community could really use more spaces and ways in which they can be in connection with other people in their community and be able to have healthy ways to move their body that are supported. And that is what I see in this facility. So I'm going to stop there and let others present, and certainly happy to keep chatting as we get going.
Thank you, Laurie. Caroline, do you want to talk to us a little bit about what you do, your role in the project, and some other things you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so I wanted to thank Sarah and PCEC for including me today. And like Laurie, I'd like to give a little bit of history. So I am a member of the Four Ranges Board. I'm also a physical therapist here in Livingston. I work at a small private outpatient clinic, and I also work in the school system as a physical therapist. And my history with this project kind of dovetails with what Laurie was saying. My husband and I moved here 22 years ago. And about 20 years ago, I was one of the people that started one of the efforts to get an indoor swimming pool here in Livingston. I'm a lifelong swimmer, and I felt like it was an amenity that this community needed. And at that time we formed a group, we had a nonprofit. It never really gained a lot of traction because we didn't have any city support at that time. And I would say the city supported us, but they weren't at a place where they could talk about a recreation district or really provide ownership for the facility. So yeah, it kind of went to the wayside. And so I wanted to address that because some people's questions were like, this seems like this has happened really quickly. And the great thing about this project is that it does have city backing and city ownership. And this process for this current wellness center actually began in about 2018 when Michael Cardos was still city manager. The city realized that the facilities that it had were aging. The pool has been on life support since I moved here 22 years ago and is now like barely on life support. And our rec department has grown exponentially and just needs more space to house programs that it is already running. So the city saw the need for new facilities. And also to speak to what Laurie said, the sense I've had since I've lived here in Livingston is that there is not really a community space. I mean, we have the Civic Center, but the hours are limited. Most places I have lived, there is some sort of facility where people can just go and hang out and be social. And if they want to recreate, they can. If they want to talk with friends, they can. If they want to have a birthday party, those are all possibilities. And so I think that's the great benefit of this facility. And so when I was invited to join the board, the Four Ranges board began meeting in 2021. So we've been working on this project, working on fundraising, developing the plans for the facility since then. And all with the support of the city and their input. So it may feel like this is kind of all coming to a head rapidly, but there is considerable history and research and planning that have gone into this facility. And main focus is to make this very inclusive. Like Laurie said, it would benefit like all ages of our community. And I see that on a weekly basis as a physical therapist. As a physical therapist, my viewpoint is that a strong community is a healthy community, and that's what builds resilience. And I come from the focus of physical health and well-being. And almost weekly, I would say all of us that work in my clinic are, people get to the end of physical therapy and we encourage them, you need to keep doing your exercises. You need to keep doing this. And a lot of people, it's intimidating to go to a gym. And there's 3 private gyms in our town. 2 of the locations are owned by the same person, and then the third one is a separate entity. And, that's intimidating to people. And hopefully in our wellness center, there will be space for fitness equipment and some free weights. And so I see that benefiting older people a lot. They can not only go and walk on the track, there will be a therapy pool that they can use, but they can also, there will just be some basic equipment. They can go and ride on a stationary bicycle after they have a total knee replacement and not be intimidated by sort of the gym atmosphere. And I know somebody asked the question about, would this be detrimental to those private facilities in town? And research has borne out that if you improve the health of a community in general, like everybody is, it doesn't take away from those business because everybody is more interested in health and wellness. And there again, where I see like the wellness center benefiting is for our younger members, sort of middle school, high school age. Right now, all of the private facilities in town have a keyless entry system. So you have to be 18 to use it by yourself. Otherwise, you have to go with your parent. And I don't know how many people on this call are parents, but most all of you know kids' schedules and parent schedules are not always meshing. And so, this is a facility that will be accessed by Rehder. Kids could go there after school when their parents are still at work. A middle schooler or young high schooler could go and train for a sporting event that they want to do, or just to improve their overall health and wellness. So we have really attempted to make this facility very inclusive and include spaces also for community resources, for the food pantry, for mental health resources. As a board, we have discussed, wouldn't it be great to have like the mental health crisis team that the city and the county are talking about housed in our facility? And just this morning, I was talking to one of the teachers at the high school, and the benefits of having all of this in one facility is that there isn't the stigma about any of it. You aren't seen going to get mental health services at a clinic. You're just going to the wellness center and you can access all of these services in one place. So it removes that stigma for people. And I also wanted to mention, I did see somebody inclusivity is a huge concern. One of our board members has met with Katie Bonnell's family, and we're making sure that, the facility itself has to be, ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act. It has to meet those standards, but also the park that will be outside the facility will have ADA equipment for people with disabilities to use. So we have really worked hard on trying to make this as inclusive a facility as we can. So, yeah, I'll stop there, Sarah, and pass the baton to Grant.
Thank you so much, Caroline. There was a lot of things there that I wasn't aware of, so I appreciate you sharing those. Grant Gager, into the nuts and bolts. And by far the most amount of questions that came around tax structure, HR, budgets, etc. So I think I will leave it to the expert in the room to share with us. Thank you, Grant.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and everyone at PCEC for giving me the opportunity to at least share some information about the project. I do appreciate the opportunity, and certainly happy to answer any questions at the end of this, or if anybody doesn't feel comfortable or get their question answered, have time. feel free to email me at citymanager@livingstonmontana.org. Always happy to communicate with the community that way or by phone. So, I, as some of you know, I am a relative newcomer in town. Was appointed to the position in November of 22. And of all the things we covered in the interview, this was not one of them. So I had no idea that this project even existed when I took the job about 16 months ago. But I found out fairly quickly that this was something that was on the table and had been talked about. And so, have enjoyed working with the foundation over the last year or so to advance the project. We signed an MOU actually almost a year ago on March 7th of 23. And that really kicked off a process with the city commission to really formally engage with the project and in a very public and meaningful way. And I guess the first question that came up really was the location. We I've delivered some larger infrastructure projects in the past. And really, when it comes down to it, you've got the location, the programming of the building, the capital funding, and the operating funding. Those are generally the four questions that need to get answered before a project can move forward. And so we started on the location question, and the team and I at the city analyzed, and also MSU, we brought in their geospatial department and really got fairly analytical in that process that some of you might recall from last summer. And ultimately the city commission selected Katie Bunnell Park as their most desired location. And so we are moving forward in that regard. And that location was selected for a number of reasons. It is in the census tract that is more disadvantaged within the city. And so that opens the project up to some different tax credits and funding opportunities that wouldn't have existed at some of the other sites that were considered. And then also, by virtue of being in that census location and working with MSU, we learned that really actually that area of town had a relatively high concentration of children relative to other areas of town. And also on a socioeconomic scale was a little bit on the lower side. And so, placing the facility in that area of the community made sense for a few reasons. And a lot of people don't know this, but Windrider Transit actually currently stops at Katie Bunnell Park 5 times a day. And so there is relatively good accessibility in that regard. If folks like to go out, it's a beautiful day, go out and shoot some hoops over there while you still can. And then it also actually does benefit from fairly good existing sidewalk infrastructure along Bennett/Gallatin there, certainly to the west. The whole way to the tunnel on the north side of Gallatin is sidewalk, and we do know that there are some gaps in the sidewalk around there that we will, as a city, need to complete those gaps and work on that to really ensure that there is good connectivity. But the site itself was selected in part because it has good connectivity, good bones, if you will. And I guess that inadvertent reference to bones, we certainly do understand that there are some issues with that area of town historically. And as part of that initial review, I have read the record of decision on the Livingston Yard Superfund site, and am totally aware of that history. And that is one of the reasons why the city commission requested that a phase 2 environmental be performed on the site before moving forward. We've gotten the preliminary results back on that, and they confirmed what basically 20 years of testing has confirmed in and around that site, that there are no volatile organic compounds or metals in the soil that need to be remediated for the project to proceed. I've been having conversations with DEQ going back to the summer And we do have access to all of that data. We did make that available on the website as well, for anybody that has a science background and a lot of time on their hands. But we did include some notes on the tables and all of that. And our website is livingstonmontana.org, and across the top you'll see a red banner, and if you just click on that, has a site location and then really just a lot of project information. So that is basically the location. And there's some brownfield funding associated with that site by virtue of its proximity to the state's Circle Superfund site. And so again, I've been working with DEQ, and they are aware of the project and are eager to step in. But at this point, there, as we found through the phase 2, there's really not a ton of concern or required mitigation there. But we will work with them as necessary. And so, that seems like a fairly decent transition, to the building itself and the programming of the building. And when I joined the foundation, had an existing relationship with a larger national firm, and we're working through a design and programming process there. And the project, I think when I joined, had been envisioned initially at somewhere in the 50 to 60,000 square foot range. And through those conversations last summer, we heard from the community that felt like a large facility for a community of this size. And so the foundation and I and others had a lot of conversations to really just make sure that we were building a structure that had the right amenities, but also we could afford to construct and also afford to operate. And so through those conversations and really just some review of hard numbers, because in the construction world, size is dollars. The project has worked itself down, and at this point, I'm probably going to throw up some screenshots. The foundation and I, and the city, Maggie as well, are currently working through a design process with a team out of Great Falls. So the city of Great Falls actually is about to open a similar structure. And, as I alluded to kind of with project budgets and all of that, we've, recognized there might be some opportunities to kind of economize and deliver a better project for the community in a more economical way, if we kind of take advantage of the work of the folks up in Great Falls, at least as a starting point. And so, and by virtue of the city not managing the design or construction, public procurement rules don't necessarily apply. So it gives the foundation some leeway. So, we are still working with the architects. And so what I'm about to show is certainly not finalized, and there is certainly room for conversation. But a lot of these amenities that are here, are here because they were the most identified amenities back in the 2019 needs assessment. And that, again, as was mentioned earlier, is a gym, a walking track that's indoors, and some sort of aquatic feature. And so, at this point, the project is contemplating a 2-story facility, and this is the first story. And so the public entryway is right over here, if you can see my cursor, and little reception desk lobby area there, and just a general open seating area. And again, this is all subject to change as the foundation and the city work through the process if voters approve in March. And so adjacent to that seating area, a little lounge up in the Great Falls facility. They've got a fireplace here and some nice viewing areas out into one of the aquatic features, which is kind of the therapy rec pool area. And so, Maggie Tarr, our recreation director, myself, and Chase and Andrew Field from the foundation took a trip up to Great Falls in the fall. And so this area of the pool was about 4 or so feet deep, and has a walk-in area for therapeutic uses, and also a sitting area. And then over here was kind of that moving water area, for folks to be able to, kind of walk against the current and do that. And then this, kind of came into a zero kind of entry, beach style entry where you can just walk in. And then there were some kids features there. The Great Falls facility does have a water slide. It is a poolless bottom, so you walk up the stairs and the water comes down with you, and ends in a tube. Some water parks have those. They're actually pretty cool. And then adjacent to that, we have heard from the community that well, we know from practice that a lot of people enjoy lap swimming. I walk by the current pool on my way to work a lot of times at 7:30, and there's people cranking back and forth in the pool doing laps, which I love to see. And so through the foundation's work with the Great Falls project and finding some economies there. There was a point this summer where it looks like the budget might only afford one pool. And again, because of this work with Great Falls, it looks like we're back in two pool territory. And so this up here is a 6-lane lap pool, and at 25 yards. Which I'm told is a short course pool, and I believe the state championship up in Great Falls was held in a pool this size. So it does provide an opportunity for, we know there's a lot of members of the community that currently drive over to Bozeman, and I know some members of the community that have left because they are sick of driving to Bozeman for their kids to be on swim team. And so I think this provides some opportunities for the community to go in that direction. And then kind of backing it out to the entry area. And this is an area that Andrew, Maggie, and I think need to spend a little bit more time with. Hopefully we can get together on Friday to do so. But we kind of envision this as kind of the hub of the building, right? And so these wellness partner rooms that open out to the pool area, and very likely we're having conversations about perhaps splitting this room, and that would give us, I believe, somewhere around 2 rooms that are each 100 square feet or so. Still working on that, but they open up to the pool area, and so if one needs physical therapy or something like that, easy to imagine that during the day when kids are in school, this area actually becomes kind of a nice therapy pool area. And who knows, on the weekends maybe there's a birthday party or two that happens here when the kids can eat some pizza and then go get nuts out there. And then certainly these rooms also available for different counseling sessions, community meetings, and what have you. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think that's one thing that's been made clear to me from the funders, is that this really is not just a recreation center, but is as much a community gathering space, and also opportunity for people to meet service providers. And so we really are trying to accomplish that here in the lobby area with the seating and the lounge, and then also these partner rooms that again are kind of close to the heart of the facility. And over here, I recognize that we've improperly striped this gymnasium for basketball, and working with the architects to ensure that it's striped for pickleball, because I see that that's a big one around here. And so this gym, Maggie is still noodling on what floor, and about some other aspects of that area of the facility. But a high school length court certainly going this direction, and then two of the smaller courts going that way. It is, as of right now, I think Maggie did some math, we're about 560 or so square feet different than the current Civic Center facility gym. And then down this corridor, we expect to have some kind of day use lockers for people that might be needing to store stuff here. And then in the locker room area. This is one thing. We did some surveys early in the summer. And what we actually heard from the surveys is that just about half the people, a little over half the people, I believe, prefer not to shower at a facility like this and actually shower at home after they're done using a facility. And for that reason and some others, largely community safety, we've kind of leaned away from having distinct male and female locker rooms in favor of kind of more of an open center space with changing rooms on the side and shower stalls and bathrooms and family rooms here off of that center room. I guess without getting too much into it, it's really just a better public safety thing. Some people are more comfortable being naked in a locker room than other people really need to be exposed to. And so, we think by kind of eliminating that locker room feature and having some changing rooms and showers that are, kind of which you might see in the mall, if you will. It feels like a bit of a safer situation for everybody. And then another multi-purpose room up here at the end of the building, and which feels like a good transition up this staircase to the second floor. And up that staircase brings you right here. And this is the elevated walking track that will sit above the basketball court. You can see the hoops there. And this area here, we envision this as kind of another programmable community space. And so whether that's for perhaps a track team that wants to come together and do some workout, or any other athletic team that wants to do some workout, and they've got a little kind of chalk talk area where the group can kind of sit and do their stretching and maybe get some coaching or what have you, or maybe this is just another nook for community groups to gather in. And then down here in this area is envisioned to be kind of that exercise, free weights, treadmills, bikes, stair climbers, those types of machines. I don't know if people still use stair climbers, but hey, if they do, we'll find out. So and then of course we have some public restrooms that shield the main mechanical area of the building. And so that really is the floor layout as it stands right now. And there are views out, here down into the pool. So if there were a swimming competition, this is another, kind of alternate spectating area. And that's one thing, that really I think stood out about the Great Falls facility as we were touring, and they were still, kind of fresh concrete there. But there's just great sight lines and great views and really a great open area down here that seems very conducive to community wellness. I recognize down here, I forgot to mention that, there is a child watch space that is being planned and programmed in that would tie to some outdoor space. And that outdoor space, I've spoken a little bit about this in public meetings. I expect at the next city commission meeting, I will bring a lease agreement with Montana Rail Link before the commission. I've been working on that with them for a number of months, and they own an adjacent. So Katie Bunnell Park is 1.8 acres, and they own an adjacent 2.2 acres. And then across M Street to the west, Northwest Energy has a parcel of land over there that's 0.7 acres that they will soon vacate when they consolidate their operations out at Chicken Creek as part of that land transfer with the county. And then just adjacent to that, there's another railroad owned piece of land at the corner of the southwest corner of M and Bennett Street. And so in looking at if all of those properties come together like I currently expect them to, we're looking at about 5 acres or so of land in addition, or sitting on and surrounding the current 1.8 acre Katie Bunnell Park. And this comment came up, or this conversation came up a little bit last night when the city commission approved a lease agreement with the foundation. So if the if the referendum question is successful in mid-March, the city will transfer control of the property. We will still own it. They will control it, and they will be able to start working forward on the project as the funding picture comes together. So I expect to bring a lease with MRL for the adjacent 2.2 acres up to the city commission at the next meeting. And so, you know, if things work out on March 19th, we'll be able to move forward on March 20th. And just to be clear, you know, I mentioned this last night, you know, the city has already named that Katie Bunnell Park. In my mind, it's Katie Bunnell Park until the city commission decides otherwise. And the amenities that are currently there, the basketball court and swing set and others that I kind of referenced earlier, you know, it is the intention to find a home at the park for those amenities. And that, you know, I guess is a nice segue into the operating, right? And that you know, legacy of Katie Bunnell is not lost on me, though I'm new here, and you know, doesn't seem like it's been lost on the commission in my conversations with them. And so, you know, the hope really is that we're not ruining the park, but rather, you know, making it better and I guess further honoring Miss Bunnell's legacy because it is an impressive one, and that, you know, is also one of the reasons why the facility is slated to be free for members of the district. Just to be clear, there, you know, establishment of the district, you know, like Laurie said, is something that's been talked about for decades, apparently. And actually, there are some donor gifts that also were tied to creation of the district, and so given the city land, the nature of the city land, and also the requirement for the district, it became clear in conversations with the city commissioners that free access to anybody who's paying a tax to operate and maintain the building was a must. And I understand that really from a philosophical standpoint as well. It's difficult for me as city manager to even contemplate asking somebody to pay for a facility that they actually don't get any free access to and would otherwise have to pay additionally and on top of their tax bill to enter. And so that's a decision that the commission you know kind of made very early on, and I think that really, you know, appears to align well with the funders' desires to improve community wellness, right? Let's just remove the barrier altogether so that anybody who lives in the city of Livingston, renter, owner, what have you, can just show their ID and walk in the door and use the open gym and the open swim. You know, I think I've said in the past that programming, you know, programmed activities would still cost a fee, right? Because there's some other costs associated with that, but that's also one of the reasons, you know, that we're talking about keeping the Civic Center around. You know, I had the opportunity last June to meet with some city managers up in Williston, and they've got North Dakota, and they've got a 250,000 square foot facility there. And it was having lunch with their program and facility director, and you know, kind of asked him, you know, what'd you do with the old building? And he said, oh, that's still over there, and we program that out for birthday parties and leagues and adult leagues and this, that, and the other all day long, and that frees up the space in the new facility for open gym and things like that. And so that was, you know, an interesting learning of that conference and talking to Maggie. I mean, you know, she's operating that thing basically 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Down at the Civic Center as it is. And we hear that a lot, that people wish there was more open gym and open opportunities. And, you know, in part that's because we're space constrained, and in part it's because we're also labor constrained just by virtue of the current resources of the general fund. And so, you know, that's one of the opportunities really of the district, is that it enables a higher level of recreation in the community, and just more opportunities, right? Having two gyms instead of just the one, I think really creates some good opportunities for the community. So I've jumped around a little bit there, was trying to make a smoother transition into operating, but it's a pretty multifaceted project. So, you know, we do have an operating budget that has been released, and I'm happy to provide a quick screen share of that for folks that might be a little bit more budget minded, and that actually is going to be this slide here. And without going too much into it, the district revenue, we can only increase. So the initial ask will be set at 30 mils. The goal there is to raise up to 1.1 million from the property tax revenue. And then the next line down here is user fees. This is expected to be generated from folks who live outside of the district, whether in daily, annual or other time period passes, as well as facility rentals. I mentioned birthday parties, therapeutic use, this, that, and the other. And then really just a small amount of miscellaneous revenue here in year one, ties up with our expected salary and benefits, and then other operating costs of the building. I do have an MBA in corporate finance, so everything I look at really is kind of a business in some way or another. And so there is a net income line, and then you start to build operating fund balance. One of the things, we had conversations earlier about involving the county in the tax district and using the larger Park High School district, because I think a lot of people saw some good synergies between this and school district, and the children really. And unfortunately, the county commissioners elected to go a different way and not allow their voters to opine on whether they wanted to move this project forward. So when the city was forced to move forward with a district on our own that matches city limits, frankly, we lost some of that district revenue up top, right? And so through conversations with the foundation this fall, they've agreed to fundraise towards a $5 million endowment, which would kick off some operating support revenue here. And so we see that to come in later years. And that really, it was a critically important piece when the county decided to pull out. But I think it provides another layer of stability for the project and for the community, knowing that the operations of the facility are backstopped in some ways. And actually, as you can see, following this line out, the endowment fund balance grows, and the general operating fund balance. And so, it provides a little bit of comfort there. And just to be clear, the district revenue, you'll note that we've got it kind of the same as 2 years, because in Montana, the state does the reappraisal every 2 years. And so we can only bring this one up, like our general fund, by half the rate of inflation. And so there is a measure of cost containment on property taxes there. And then, kind of flowing this down, when we had the conversations with the county, we envisioned 7-day-a-week operation. And this, please, I'm not saying here that it will be closed Sunday and Monday. Those are really, that's up to Maggie and the community to know what days will be open if we are unable to raise enough through user fees to fund 7-day-a-week operation. That was the intent with the county, but again, when we lost that slug of revenue, that chunk of revenue, it made it a little bit more difficult to do, the 7-day operation from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So at this point, we're looking at 5-day, but those days, just to be clear, might very well be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. Again, we've got some work to do there. I've heard some chatter in the community about the livability of wages, and please know, livability is something, at the end of the day, I'm responsible for all of these employees, and so I need to make sure that they can afford to live here. And we also have labor agreements in place for some similar type positions. And so these wages are reflective of where we expect our labor force to be in 2 years when the facility opens, if it's approved by voters. And so we do, as part of this budget year, I put in a $20 an hour minimum wage for all permanent employees of the city. and permanent full-time employees of the city, and part-timers as well. And so, that's consistent with what we're doing elsewhere. Switching a little bit because, at the end of the day, this is all funded by property tax. I want to make clear to everybody, this is my property tax bill. If you've got yours at home, this is the line you're looking at if you'd like to compute your own impact, and you multiply that by 30 over 1,000, which is 0.03. I wrote it this way, just so everybody, that's 30 mils. A mil is the taxable value per 1,000 of valuation. And so that's what the number for my house ends up being. Just while we're here, for those of you who have questions on property tax, if you live in the city, your tax bill is going to look like this. And the city lives off this top line is our general fund. And these bottom two lines are our street maintenance and street lighting. And so in my case, I'm paying about $1,400, a little over that, for the operations of the city. Everything that happens in between here and there are other taxing entities. This area up here is your county area, and so that's what it's cost to operate the county for you. And then down here, we start to get into education, and I will say, just a lot of that large increase in folks' tax bills actually happened in this area here, in the voted university area, and I believe state equalization was another one. I'm sure Representative Bishop could correct me if I'm wrong there, but those are what are known as fixed mills, and so they capture all of the growth in property tax value to their revenue. Ours, we can only grow our property tax revenue by half the rate of inflation, as I mentioned. So we're a little bit more constrained than they are at the state level. I guess I think I've caught everything. One question that I get a lot is, why this project, and why not the grade separated rail crossing or any of the other large number of infrastructure needs that we have. And quite honestly, I recognize that there are a lot of other infrastructure needs, but they don't have a readily available pool of funding. And to be clear, this is not city money. This is not taxpayer money to construct the facility. These are funds that have been generously donated by members of the community. And so, it is not an either or question, wellness center or overcross, undercross. This money has been donated for the wellness center. If the district is not approved, we'll have an interesting conversation on March 20th with the donors about their path forward. I feel like I already know the answer to that question. But the city, we do have infrastructure needs, certainly related to the pool and the civic center. We'll have some clarity on which direction we're going on March 20th if we're reinvesting into, well, we will reinvest into the civic center no matter what, because that building's critical infrastructure that as I've said, we still need. But the level of investment, the type of investment, I think we'll know more on the 20th. And similarly with the pool, just to be clear, that pool is, I know how it got built. It was 1949, and it was the Army Corps was involved. So that's how it got built. But I think we would be very hard pressed to be able to build that pool in that location today with all the environmental regulations there. And so if on March 20th, if this is not successful, Maggie and myself will initiate some internal conversations about what to do with the pool, and we'll go from there. So just important clarity for people to know that if this fails, we don't just take the 25 million that the foundation has raised and turn our attention to other projects. This money goes away, and we turn our attention really to the same project with 25 million less dollars to fix it. I think that really covers most of the questions that I get or what I've heard. I appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully this has been helpful. And I guess one other thing that's kind of implicitly out there with this is the current funding, right? What happens to the current rec budget? And I think that it's a great question, and it offers really the community some interesting opportunities. The plan at this point is to move our recreation department out of the general fund into this new fund. That would be supported by the levy. There'd still be our employees and the same great team that you know and love today. But it would open up, potentially $200,000 or so in the general fund of the city, and so that offers another conversation amongst the community and the commission of, are we increasing the level of service in certain areas today? Perhaps Rehder Transit should get more than $5,000 from the city, or are we expanding the city into new services? And mobile crisis response was mentioned earlier. I certainly see the need for that type of service in the community, but there are other services that the community may bring forward in the budget conversations over the few years. So really this new tax, it kind of benefits the community twice. We get a wellness center, and then there is a level of service conversation that we get to have in the general fund, which is really a kind of a unique feature of this. So it really feels like I've talked a lot, and so I'll probably just stop now.
Grant, yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this is a new format for us, knowing that there would be a large amount of questions. And so I just want everyone to know there was 9 pages of questions, and I sent each and every one of those questions and even scrubbed some off Facebook to make sure we were having as much of a holistic conversation we could have in an hour, and then had our guests respond to those. So I know there are still some lingering ones. I think it's impossible to touch on every topic. I will be circulating an email with the contact information, the resources that we have available. Once again, send me anything that you think might be useful to share. And I am also wanting to just thank everybody for being here, for your time. This is very well attended, and this is a big decision for our community. And I also want to recognize that 1 hour online in the middle of the week is quite exclusive to a whole population of our community. So I am really encouraging you to have your own conversations with your extended networks. Happy to help provide resources or point you in those directions. In the 2022 Casper study, we trust our family and friends and our neighbors the most. And so this would be the most important thing that we can do. So thank you very much. It's 1 o'clock. We'll see you all soon. And thanks again to our speakers and guests. Thank you so much.